Hey everyone, this is WobblyWallaby. Today I'll be giving my brutally honest review of Ancient Magic Master. I'll also show my semi-free-to-play PvE build which I used to clear the Legend Golem. This will give people some idea of just how good she is with suboptimal gear and cards. I'll also provide my pros, cons, and suggested improvements at the end. Stay tuned for all the details. Thanks to the R.LUM.R Unofficial Discord channel for their advice and great help. This class is definitely not straightforward, so it helps to have the other beta testers and content creators share their experiences with this class. Let's take a look at her core passive skill. They did buff it to give an additional one-time magic attack to the level 1 skill. I think this is important to help this character scale with magic attack. At a minimum, you do need level 4 to play her. You'll also be very sad if you don't have level 7, since adding 2 times magic damage is insane and much needed. That's the one thing I don't like about this hero class. If you aren't at 7-7, you're at such a massive disadvantage. If you aren't sitting on a ton of ruins or have BCC to buy rune boxes, I think you should hold off on her. Either way, the general consensus in the community is going magic. The physical build, which I tried earlier in the video, is not good. Toquan sums it up quite well as to why magic is better. You get 2 times magic each time, whereas physical is just 1 time. Next, Volkova Welgrahen summarizes just how the physical and magic interactions work with these skills. You can see how both the ignore defenses and the penetrations are used for the calculation, as well as the damaged element cards and a lot of physical damage modifiers. For the magic proc part, you can see how both ignore defense and penetrations are used as well, and the magic damage modifiers. One significant part is the magic crit, which is why many people use that equipment, since it can increase the magic proc damage. Next, here's the initial gear I shared on the Unofficial Community Discord channel. Also, I let people know I wanted this build to be as semi-free-to-play friendly as possible. On this beta account, I don't have a lot of the cards or the proper sewing machine refines to make my headwear a certain level. That is why I don't have Shoutout star card, the Dark Lord star card, or a Refined 6 in Communist Movement. This general build was still struggling versus Legend Golem. I got some great suggestions from the community which I'll share. Also, speaking of good suggestions, if you need BCC to make your class struggle less, then try Smile.1. Smile.1 allows you to get discounted BCC and premiums for Ragnarok Mobile. They have been around for more than 8 years and have lots of global business partners for other games too. There are plenty of payment methods for lots of flexibility. I'll put a link in the description. Thanks to Smile.1 for sponsoring this video. Alex mentioned that people were using the fire accessories and I should use water accessories versus the golem. It is true that she could use elemental damage increase over magic attack. There is also a suggestion to use the other shore web, which gives -20% variable cast time, -10% fixed cast time, 200 raw magic attack, 16% magic attack at Refined 15, and 18% magic penetration. I agree, if I had the perfect rolls, I'd use that too. I also agree that hunting for enchants can free up the Moonex star card and the Firewish star card for better cards. The Moonex star card is still fantastic if you're unable to roll for good ignore defense or ignore magic defense enchants for your gear. Next, Flytoad mentioned Music of Soul is a good headgear. Also, some great recommendations if you can't get Incomnius to +6, since maybe you aren't able to refine it or it just keeps breaking. Next, Toquan talked about his personal opinion on spell crit. By lowering your chance to magic crit, you can swap in some better gear. I ended up using his first build, which is Incomnius, 1 Chapette, for a 35% chance to magic crit. Toquan also gave good advice regarding what was feasible for free-to-play players. Indeed, Music of Soul, Koi, and Incomnius are all available in the Time Wish machine. The Witcher Calamity card is definitely the challenging card to get, and Shell Chapette is a substitute, but it does make you lose a card slot in your weapon. He also recommended Sage of Duty for being more versatile, which I agree with. Here's the non-legend version, Guide's Brooch, which shows you what it does. You get ignore magic defense and magic penetration percentage. Next, Cremissi also recommended Not Too Late for Tail, which I ended up swapping in for some more skill damage. Next, many people would likely ask which lifesteal options you can go with. You have two options, Seed of Yggdrasil or the Cobalt Leader. Cobalt Leader is definitely cheaper, but only works with Side Split because the big sword is AoE, so it's not a target locked skill. Seed of Yggdrasil is crazy expensive in many servers, so it's hard to get. Next, Toquan had shared his Super Whale build of Ancient Magic Master. Indeed, a man can dream. This build looks so crazy strong, it made me salivate just looking at it. He also had some great shadow equipment, Oracle Mirror, and Relic. I can't stress just how great the Ragnarok Mobile Unofficial Community Discord is. There are plenty of people who are happy to help you with your builds, so definitely check it out if you have questions for other classes too. Next, I'll show you my Legend Golem run, and then the semi-free-to-play gear I had used after. I tried to use as bad gears as possible to achieve this, to give people a realistic expectation of this class. After all, we can't all be whale and have all the best in slot cards in this game. I eat a rapid attack alloy, and convert to water, so I use the Ice Mastery alloy to give me more damage. I also have 6 anti-death foods and B meals. I cast Enchant Weapon, then cast Cosmite Ring manually. The weapon can proc this, but it makes sense to cast it right away for more damage. You can see her attack is a bit slow. Also, I put her Big Sword AoE on auto. I found that without this extra damage, I couldn't kill the golem fast enough. You do need to dodge attacks, as her extreme tankiness from the light block camouflage has a long cooldown, so save it for when it really matters. Here I use the light block camouflage. It has great survivability, I barely get damaged by the golem. But the skill cooldown is kinda long. Nothing too exciting with this character, just hit and dodge stuff. Finally, the golem goes down. Next, here's my gear overview. I tried to use the worst gear to achieve this. That means no MVP cards and at most mini cards. I also didn't use the plus 15 weapon. I didn't have a Shoutout star card since the account just doesn't have enough of these cards, and the same with Moonlight Tendrillion card. For Communist, I just don't have a sewing machine to get it to plus 6. Next, for shadow equipment, I did need to cheat a bit since I'm using the plus 15 versions of these gears. For Oracle Mirror, I did have to use the Staff of Wicked Thoughts for the magic penetration percentage, I just couldn't beat the boss without it. For Relic, I used Elf Piccolo, I don't have Lord of Vane on this account. I tried using this run without the Oracle Mirror Relic since it's kind of cheating, but I just couldn't do it. The damage was just too low to solo, but you could certainly solo DPS this if you had a Saint to be able to revive you when you died. Next, for Venture Handbook, I have 65% physical and magic deposits, at 3,794 attack and 3,269 magic attack. I wanted to purposely avoid using an account that has 140% deposits because that gives false hope for its damage. Next, for stats, I have 18,000 attack, 19,000 magic attack, 56% penetration, 84.4% magic penetration, 36.4% skill damage, 69.5% ignore defense, 132.3% ignore magic defense. Next, for the Sea Spear Totem, I couldn't beat it. I need much better cards and deposits. DPS wise, she is fine. I definitely need a Saint to help revive her. Next, against Oracle Dungeon mobs, she does okay for that. I found that the black hole stuff does help a lot when you spam her big sword. Her sword can definitely hit more often if you use the Saint skill Suffragium, as well as skill cooldown reducing gears. This can also be used for White Star Airship, but I find when I tried it out in Elite, it wasn't enough to melt the mobs at my deposit level, so I don't think she was particularly useful, at least with this type of gear. Next is my conclusion. I think for PvP and PvE, she's pretty good. Maybe an A tier class, but definitely not S tier. First are the pros. 1. Being able to share both physical and magic ignore defenses and penetration is really good. Often, especially for free-to-play players, it's really hard to get 200% ignore defense or 80% penetration. You need to be lucky with your enchants, gacha, and cards, so getting this combined at level 4 is definitely a lifesaver. 2. I think she scales well late game. In this 65% Depo count and non-optimal gear, you can't really see it in action, but if you get better stuff, you'll definitely see the damage scale much higher. Since there are many factors, there's many ways for you to contribute to her damage, which is great. And number 3, I think her damage being both magic and physical makes for some interesting PvP interactions. It's just a lot harder to counter her. Next are her cons. 1. I don't like her attack speed. It's a bit slow when compared to other classes like Rasputin, Genos, or Saitama. Since she can attack quickly, the boss's health just doesn't go down quickly in instances. Her high damage is fine for MVP hunting, where you can one-shot stuff, but when you're in the legend instance and your damage is capped per hit, you need to have your attacks hit quickly. 2. When I compare her with Saitama or Genos, which is the past collab, they were definitely S tier even at the time of testing. Let's consider Saitama. He's incredibly unfair for boss hunting and his boss killing ability in PvE. Although there is a damage cap for his one-shot skill, his successful punches let him melt bosses after. I also use him in Oracle Dungeon to bypass WobblyWallaby's stun, since his passive doesn't allow him to get stunned if he's being hit by something too weak. Also, when compared with Genos, Genos is the only magic DPS class people consistently use in instances due to how unfair he is. His rapid attack speed and mix of fire and wind allows him to melt mobs and bosses. He also has great survivability due to his core hero skill. His hype before the release was also insane, since this was the magic hero class people so desperately needed for PvE. But for Ancient Magic Master, especially for PvE, she just doesn't have enough skills that people are complaining about. You want a class where you read through the skill list and you can see a few skills that look so strong you wonder how it passed quality assurance. So she doesn't seem broken strong, but that also means she doesn't have a lot of hype to follow her so far. The devs are most likely going to earn a ton of money off her offhand card, which can cost a lot of BCC to roll due to the RNG to get costumes to sell for these shards. Ideally, you'd want successful collabs so future anime companies will also want to take part. I'm not sure how well she'll sell. I think her hype isn't as high as Saitama or Genos. I certainly don't want her to be like Heinrich, where it seemed like he needed some major buffs after his release due to his lack of performance. To ensure proper balance, I think that monsters and boss-specific damage multipliers are good to add. I think this would be good since it doesn't make PvP too unfair. We'll see what happens. There's still time before her release and hopefully the devs will read the comments here. What are your thoughts on her? Let me know in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Here's a video that I would recommend, and if you want more sneak peeks, check out this playlist over here.